I always say in the RIBA, we could get ourselves back into being that master builder. So we feel confident that, that we're required and we're needed, and we're not seen as a sort of the person that's sort of ground down and sort of eventually will be replaced by robots. So character and personality, and not sitting on the fence, being able to sort of stand there and sort of say, no, that it's wrong, this is not the right way of doing it.
Tall buildings are not the answer to anything other than the minds or the dreams of some architects. Tall buildings don't increase density, they're further apart, unless of course you can put them as close together as they do in Hong Kong, where you can shake hands between balconies. They alienate classes of people, the ones that are at the top of the tower and the ones that are condemned to wandering around the spaces in between. It's Fritz Lang's Metropolis all over again.
This one I loved, and it picks up about Fritz Lang's, based on his Metropolis. This was done by our CAD technician, and it's about how that planning system might shape, and that monotonous skyline overtakes everything and overshadows and obscures anything, any of London's architectural history. It was just brilliant.
I guess our thinking is if we can research deeply and really understand the city challenges, then you can start to respond to them, albeit that it may only be at a site-specific level. I guess the benefit we have on the London estate, and to a degree at Bermondsey, where it's a 12-acre site, is that we do have this contiguous ownership, which obviously then enables you to do other things. You have access to those spaces between the buildings.
So we started with how do we recreate some of those medieval street patterns? How do we provide new public spaces? Because whilst Oxford is a beautiful city and it has some amazing spaces, unfortunately they're not accessible. They exist in college quads, and they're available to you if you rock up at the right time by appointment. We have created 2 major new public squares which will be open 24 hours a day, and which hopefully will be used by the city and by the good people of the city as opportunities for them to enjoy themselves and have fun and host events. So it's about integrating them.
And something I guess that we've been looking at as a practice is the whole, again, about health and well-being, that it's about those spaces, and it's about urban farms, it's about providing healthy spaces for people to go out, about producing your own food, and in a very densely populated metropolis, that's, it's hard enough to go and find a little piece of green space to walk your dog on, let alone generate anything that grows and vegetables. So that, I thought, was a lovely image.
In Southampton, it's been very much kind of an industrial area. City centre living hasn't been that popular, but given the pressure on housing, we're going to have to get people living in the city centre. So how do we make it an attractive environment? And retail alone isn't going to do that. It's great to cater for visitors and tourists to Southampton. That's very important. They bring an important contribution to our economy. But how do we make it attractive for people to live?
Cambridge is facing, we're delivering 20% growth in a historic city. It's a huge challenge for us. And we've set out 4 principles, a quality charter, which helps to guide that. And that's around character, climate, connectivity and community. And those are the 4 principles. And I think they apply everywhere, and they apply across and into the future too.
We do lots of, if we don't get our research right and we don't understand our customer base, and it varies depending on where we're developing. Not everyone is the same. People have different aspirations depending on the geography and the social background and context of where we're developing. If we can we do huge amounts of research at the outset before we let an architect put a pen to paper. Because we write the brief informed by research before we do anything.
Architects, that we're the vision makers, and I think today in the debate one of the contributors said that actually they needed to evolve a brief and then they'd hand it to the architect. I totally disagree with that, because I think that what you're buying from the architectural profession is that image, that vision, that strategic way forward. So what If we don't just look at, you don't just look at the one building in its own context, you look at the wider context, you look at the unforeseen consequences of what you're doing, and then you build that in, and we can add that discussion and debate.
I'm positive and optimistic about London. London has survived plague and fire and bombing and financial catastrophes, and every time it's bounced back more strongly. The great thing about London is it's unplannable. Now, I say that to somebody that spent a lifetime trying to plan it. I think London's too strong to be planned. It is a true world city. It's not an English city, it is the possession of the world.